Is TikTok still a threat? It seems like the conversation around China's efforts to mind control Americans and influence elections has come to a screeching halt. Or has it? We're going to dive in with our guest a little bit further today. I am Maggie Gelson Burnett.
And I'm Mallory Hagan. This is Pretty Furious. Hey, Maggie.
Hi.
I love that we showed up wearing black and white.
So cute.
We're like telekinesis these days.
And you have the same set, which I love.
I know, I do. I love that little Amazon set. But we're not shopping from Amazon right now.
Fuck.
Or are we? I don't know.
I'm doing my best, okay?
I successfully did not purchase anything during Prime Day week situation, so kudos to me.
The only thing I got during Prime Day was decorations for my friend's baby shower.
We'll let it slide. Especially when you consider, I feel like your options for things like that are, you get, what is it, Hobby Lobby or Amazon, and neither place is ideal.
Yeah, and also I go into Hobby Lobby and I have a panic attack. I cannot go. I need a Klonopin and a morphine drip before I go into Hobby Lobby. It is so overstimulating in there. I can't do it.
Overstimulating, a little bit stressful, and, you know, questionable morals and ethics. But anyway.
Yeah, and the clientele. Not my people.
Not our people. You know who are our people, though? The folks who are following us. And if you're not following us, why not? We would love for you to. We're over at Pretty Furious Pod. Our main platform that you can find us at is Substack. We'd love for you to go follow, subscribe there. But we'd also love to see you on TikTok and Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook now. Oh, we did it.
YouTube. Yeah, we did make the jump. We went over to Facebook.
Well, we had to, because as you all may know, in order to run an ad or have a store, which we may be having something coming out soon.
That's a teaser.
We have to have a stupid meta business account. So we have it there too. So follow us on any one of those platforms. We'd love to have you. And make sure you've got like notifications on for when we've released new episodes and new content.
Mallory, you can't be pretty furious without being pretty first. Do you have a product this week?
I don't know if I feel very pretty recently. Maggie, I'm officially feeling pregnant. I'm in week 26, and all of a sudden, I'm like, oh shit.
When does third trimester start?
Don't make me do math. I don't know. 28 weeks, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
So we're close. But I just like, all of a sudden my belly is huge. I am starting to like see that line down the center of my stomach.
100%.
Whether it's good or bad, I have feelings about.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
And I'm feeling like I like can't move. I have to like roll over to stand up. Anyway, that's how things are feeling. But I guess if I'm going to try and feel pretty, actually today, my product is something that I just kind of felt like people needed a reminder of, because I actually cleaned my brushes in between use today. And I thought, you know what, this is a good reminder. So if you're out there, there are plenty of daily brush cleaners, but this one is just the one from Sephora that I love. I think it smells nice, which is always a bonus.
Oh.
Yep. And this is just spray on your brushes, wipe them down in between use to keep them clean until you can do the deep clean that none of us ever actually do. So this is kind of my my mid brush lifesaver Sephora mini daily brush cleaner. That's my product today. How about you?
Need to snag that, because I only do like those deep cleans, and I do them like once every, I don't know, few months. Yeah, like few months, like once a quarter, I would say. And that's bleak. I should not be doing that.
Yeah, especially as we have continually talked about fungal acne.
100%. Yeah, like literally everybody listening to this is like, you fucking idiot. Like,
yeah, no wonder your face is breaking out all the time.
Fucking brushes, you sick fuck. Anyway. Yeah, so I need to purchase that. But I just wash mine with Dawn dish soap. That's my ride or die. So, okay, so you'll have to remind me if I have already mentioned this product. I don't think I have. But this is another drugstore product, another one from L'Oreal. I am continuously amazed by L'Oreal's products as of late, which, listen, I'm not usually like L'Oreal's biggest fan, but like this is really good. This is the L'Oreal Panorama Voluminous Mascara. It looks like this. It's in this gold tube. It's very pretty. I think I've mentioned this before. I'm a snob when it comes to mascaras. I am very particular. Like, look at that wand. Oh, it's so nice. I'm very particular.
I like L'Oreal mascaras.
I am just like, I don't know. I just haven't found one, like a drugstore one that I've been like obsessed with. Like I usually gravitate towards higher end because I feel like they hold the curl longer. But I will tell you, I've been using this for a few weeks now and I'm like obsessed with that. Like this will be the mascara that I use moving forward.
Nice. I use L'Oreal's Voluminous. So I'm a L'Oreal fan. And that's the mascara that I've been using for 15 years.
Well, and I say that as like L'Oreal literally owns like every brand ever. So it's like, so of course I'm like, of course I prefer the higher end. And it's like probably the same fucking formula. Like packaged differently. Like it's just, like, okay. But yeah, I really like this. It's, obviously inexpensive. You can find it at the drugstore. So yeah, that's my product.
Love it. Love it.
Amazing.
Products make us happy. Headlines make us pretty furious. What headline has made you pretty furious this week?
Yes, my headline is from CNN and it says, "Why Donald Trump is Facing Doubts in the Manosphere." And it's an article about how Donald Trump is losing his fan base over on the alt-right side of like male content, right? So he's losing...
Probably because he's walking around with a catheter and a pee bag attached to his leg. What do you mean?
I mean, he's just so like gross. So it is basically an article talking about how Donald Trump and the last, obviously several months, but like the last 8 weeks especially have been particularly bad for Donald Trump's fan base, specifically all of like the alt-right podcasters, the Charlie Kirks of the world. So I think it doesn't make me like furious. It actually makes me pretty happy.
I was gonna say, I don't know if this one's making me pretty furious.
I think the concept of like the manosphere and just like all of the people within that realm, first of all, they're all just like, mouth breathing limp dick losers. So there's that. What we have found out from those people on those influencers is that the left has, kind of said, well, we don't have anybody who is sort of like the Joe Rogan of the left, right? We don't have Charlie Kirk on the left. And what I think we're finding now is that over the last like 8 weeks, I think we are seeing a pretty drastic shift in like a short period of time of like these people who are like, yeah, fuck this guy. And then these other men on the left who are like, okay, hang on, I can like fill a gap here. So it's really interesting to me to kind of like observe that social change, especially on social media. So I will be very curious to hear Dr. Jessica's thoughts and feelings on things like that, the manosphere.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that will be very interesting. And I have to tell you, conversations that we have in our household, because we have 2 boys, there's another boy on the way. There's a lot of conversations about how do we protect their hearts and minds from the manosphere and from content that is misogynistic and feeds into the patriarchy, especially in a state like Alabama, where you get those things at school, you get them in external factors all the time. So that will be super interesting. I also, though, think it's extremely interesting how fragmented MAGA world feels right now. And you mentioned Joe Rogan. Like, Joe Rogan has turned. We've got Speaker Mike Johnson turning against the president, asking for the Epstein files. So there's a lot of little fragments that are happening, and maybe it's
also like infuriating though, because you're like, couldn't you have done this like back when it mattered?
Anytime in the last decade would have been great, actually.
Like, it still matters, of course, and I'm just happy it's happening, honestly. Like, people on the left can't really we will take what we can get right now. Yeah. But like, I still am just like, man, fuck you. Like, what about his behavior was totally fine over the last decade that you were like, yep, that's cool, but this one like specific, Epstein files, whatever, immigration, whatever it is that they're latching onto, which I think it's different for all of them. Like, how is that the thing, right? That's like...
Well, it's also we could have a whole episode about this. It's the people who very much in the same breath say, I like Donald Trump because he tells it like it is and he speaks his mind. Yeah. And then we'll also say he's not going to do that. He's just saying that. He's not going to do that. And then when he started doing that, aka kidnapping American citizens and sending them to concentration camps, that's when people like Joe Rogan were like, whoa, hold on. And it's like, he was telling you this is what he was going to do.
Yeah.
You guys just fed into the narrative like, he's not going to do that. You know, also when he was telling us that he, you know, wasn't going to take away women's rights, in the same breath, they were saying over and over again, we want a national abortion ban. Like, come on.
Yeah.
The inability to trust anything that comes out of their mouth. Actually, at Seneca this past week, we released an ad that's called The Big Beautiful Betrayal. And it's just, thanks. It's just all about like the fact that he just lies about everything. And his base should feel betrayed, in particular about Medicaid and SNAP benefits, because they came out over and over again in 2024 during the election cycle and said that they weren't going to touch it. But anyway, the larger point there was MAGA is fragmented, and using the manosphere people to help with that fragmentation is important. I think part of the reason we don't have a Joe Rogan on the left or a Charlie Kirk on the left is because in order to succumb to the MAGA train of thought, you have to have little emotional intelligence and black and white thinking, very little nuance. And
that's so true. Yeah.
So on the right, you know, you want to hear the opinion of this person and the opinion of this person. And on the left, you want to hear the opinion of this person and this person. And there's a lot of people who don't take things at face value. And so it's a lot harder to have somebody who has that level of influence and control over people on the left, because education, emotional intelligence equals we think a little bit harder about what we're being fed and what we're being told.
Yeah.
Anyway. Speaking of things that we're being fed, the big beautiful bullshit bill that passed will take away healthcare from about 17 million people who rely on benefits from our government. But my headline today actually has to do with everyone else who we tried to tell them this will impact you too. My headline is from Detroit, Michigan. It's from, actually, I got it from two separate sources because one of them was behind a paywall. And it says, Michigan health insurers request double-digit premium hikes starting in 2026. So Blue Cross Blue Shield, which, by the way, well, in Alabama anyway, it's a nonprofit, just in case anyone was curious about that.
Oh, my God.
They're seeking an 18.2% hike for individual plans. That's more than double the hike that they had last year, which was a 7.5% increase. And that's reflecting, obviously, that there are broader upward pressure on premiums that are coming down the line. And I don't think this is going to be just in Michigan. So for all the folks who were cheering about Medicaid benefits being ripped away from people, just know that this is directly an impact of that. So
it's so interesting to me that MAGA, one of kind of the cornerstones of their belief system is that they don't give a shit unless it affects them, right? And then what we know to be true about American policy is that you have to have critical thinking skills to understand how policy will affect you. And so it's all just a big catch-22 of these people voting for this specific thing, and then it's insane.
And here you go. Now your health insurance premiums are going to increase. Well, that has nothing to do with today's topic, which we've already talked about. It's going to have to do with social media and stuff. And I would love to bring in Jessica Maddox, Dr. Jessica Maddox, who is an outgoing associate professor of digital media at the University of Alabama and an incoming associate professor of screen media at the University of Georgia. She is a researcher and teacher of social media content creators, influencers, and media studies. Her work examines how pop culture and labor function on social media, which I think is fascinating. She's the author of The Internet is for Cats and The Anatomy of an Internet Scandal. And that one's actually coming out soon. So she's written over 20 peer-reviewed academic articles on social media, and she's appeared in over 200 international news outlets to discuss internet culture, which is just so up our alley. When she's not working.
I literally can't wait.
Yeah, Yeah, when she's not working, you can find her cooking, baking, reading fantasy novels, or if she's on her Peloton, let's welcome Dr. Jessica.
All right, Jess, welcome in. We are so excited to have you here on the show today. We would love to hear a headline that has made you pretty furious. Can you share it with us?
Yes, absolutely. First, thank you guys for having me. And I am pretty furious about a new TikTok app is coming. Here's what we know.
Isn't it going to be called like M or something?
Yeah, so internally it's known as M2. I don't really know where that came from, but yeah, the story here goes that so we have been trapped in this cycle of TikTok being banned in the US, honestly, for years. Now, I feel like I've been having this conversation now for years that began in 2020 with President Trump's first term, when he aimed to ban TikTok, was unsuccessful. His attempts were ruled unconstitutional back then. Once that was unable to pass, states implemented their own TikTok bans on state levels. And then one of the final laws the Biden administration signed in was a ban on TikTok. It's important to note that that ban was kind of hidden in a larger spending bill, so it was almost like could not be voted against, basically. And so then it went through numerous court challenges, was upheld all the way to the Supreme Court. TikTok became, air quotes, banned in the US. Air quotes, is still technically banned in the US. They kicked the can down the road. It became President Trump's problem again in his second term, where he just keeps extending the deadline for the ban to go into effect. And then all of that to say, breaking news a week or two ago, TikTok has been working on a US specific version of the app that would require me and you to delete what we currently use off of our phones and download a new app, this M2 app as it's known, to continue to use TikTok in the United States.
So wait, question. So there are some other apps that exist that operate like TikTok. There's like Lemonade, and then everybody fled to the Chinese app.
Red Note, yeah.
Red Note. And then there's like, fan base or something. And one of the things that drew me to Fanbase when we were all freaking out about TikTok was that they automatically import all of your TikToks for you.
Oh.
So that was one of their selling points, was like, come over to Fanbase and they take your TikTok handle and they take all of your content and push it over. So I'm wondering if that's going to be an option for M2.
I feel like it's better, because if we all have to start over, like, that's essentially a ban, right? Like, people who have been on TikTok, I mean, since before the big push in 2020 during the COVID lockdowns, when we had nothing else to do, TikTok explodes in popularity. I think that people who have been on this app since 2018, 2019, who have millions of followers, or even smaller creators who have just built their community of 50, 60,000 people, you can't replace that overnight. You can't rebuild that overnight. And so if M2 does not do this kind of a fan-based model, as you've pointed out, it's basically a ban. It's a kiss of death for content creators on TikTok.
Well, and one of the things that really bothers me, first of all, is that all of this started out as a conversation about like Chinese mind control and government access to us, and that has just disappeared. Right. We started out this episode by saying, is that a problem or is it not? Because if it was such a huge problem, why are we kicking the can down the road? Right. And so what's your take on that?
So first and foremost, there has never been any evidence provided that TikTok poses a national security threat. Everything is talked about in a hypothetical. It could pose a national security threat. And I think we have to situate this within broader considerations of how Silicon Valley operates as the hub, really a global hub of social media. It's based in the US, and it extends its reach and its power across the globe in terms of social media platforms. And so it's very threatening to them to have a app not based in the US be the most popular app in the United States, particularly for young people. So I absolutely believe business competition is a part of that. I don't know if you all are familiar with, I can't remember how many years ago it was, but Washington Post found out that Meta had hired a Republican strategy firm to create fake TikTok challenges to make TikTok look bad. So it's like, clearly this is a business competition issue, right?
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah.
I read Careless People and I was like,
yes.
what the fuck is going on? Yeah, it was crazy.
Cannot recommend Careless People enough. So it's Sarah Wynne Williams's memoir. She was a C-suite executive at Meta for several years before she parted ways with the company on less than amicable terms. But yeah, and one of the things that she wrote about in her memoir that I have been thinking about in conversation with this new TikTok US versions app specifically for the US is that, you know what country demanded a specific version of an app to be created for them? China. China demanded a specific version of Facebook to be created for them to avoid outside influence. And I'm like, that is exactly what is happening here with the US creation, the US demanding we have our US version of TikTok. Of course, there are some sensitivities and some differences, but let's look at the history of who demands apps to be made specifically for them.
Yeah, for sure. You know, it's funny, Maggie and I also mentioned at the beginning that we had an Instagram and then we had kind of just said, like, we're not going to do Facebook. I don't know if our audience is there on Facebook. And then we realized just the level of control that Meta has over all of our lives when it comes to the ability to organically market something and the inability to, like, buy an ad or to hook up a store or whatever it might be. And so we had to create a Facebook account.
Oh my God.
We were like, ugh.
Yeah. It's wild how much, like, how sort of integrated social media, specifically Meta, is with kind of like building anything really. Like building, like, yes, online presence obviously, but like even if I talk with my brother about this all the time. He's a writer, and like, even building a following in terms of making sure that books are successful and making sure that art you put out is successful.
Absolutely.
Like, so much of that rides on the back of the communities you build on social media. I have such a hard time with that of like, feeling constantly like Mallory and I have to like build our community and like all of that. And while that's great, and social media allows for that to happen, it also, I think in a lot of instances feels really like forced or,
My colleague in the UK, Sophie Bishop, has written on this phenomenon called influencer creep. And what this is basically saying the idea of being an influencer has crept into other professions, including like our ways of promoting art, of promoting products, of, being any type of, doing any type of profession now involves being an influencer to some degree because you are promoting yourself. You're like really sticking to that self brand. You're really trying to build that community. Like all of these things that influencers do, we now all do.
Business owners.
Wow, I hate it here.
We even think about like healthcare professionals, right? And like how many doctors, surgeons, those like estheticians, all those
plastic
people,
surgeons.
Exactly.
Oh my God, in Guadalajara, the facelift.
Oh my God.
Bye. Oh my God, I was all over that shit.
I was all over that too.
Yeah.
That scared me.
It scared me too.
It was jarring.
It's not the first time I've said that. I'm like, that's a lot. Okay, but let's just backtrack for a second because we are just so curious. What drew you to this subject matter and this work in the first place?
Yeah. Okay, let me try to give an abridged version of my life story. But basically, I was an English major in college. I graduated the first financial crash. No jobs, so I picked a bunch of part-time gigs. One of those was working part-time in a magazine, and it was basically like help with our social media because you're young and you know what's going on. And so this was 2011, and I loved it. I fell in love with it. After my time ended there, I decided to go back to school, get a master's in public relations so I could do social media for a living. Got introduced to kind of academic research and theory and just fell in love with it. And I decided to go get a PhD, became a professor of social media. And so I'm just fascinated by, I don't know, just how much the role social media plays in our lives, as we've been talking about. And I'm very interested in how it shapes and reshapes pop culture and the nature of work, and just how we've come to rely on it so heavily, and that like there's no putting the toothpaste back in the tube on social media. Like it's not going anywhere. We can't undo what has been done. So how do we try to make it better with what we have?
Yeah. One thing I think about constantly, I think that Mallory also thinks about constantly, is how social media has influenced the political landscape we live in. And, you know, obviously with this podcast, we talk a lot about that.
Yeah.
I'm so curious to know your thoughts on sort of like where we go from here when we consider things like the manosphere and like we just talked about, you know, how Trump is kind of losing his grip on like these alt-right male influencers, you know, Joe Rogan, Charlie Kirk, like all of those weirdos. And yeah, like I'm just so curious to know your thoughts on kind of like where this could all go, like, and how we make it better for people so that we're not constantly exposed to like, you know, horrifying content.
What's the phrase, Maggie? 5 hours later. literally put in that SpongeBob thing here.
I'm always like, man, if I had like the true solution to this problem, I would sell it and be a billionaire and abscond to a desert island, and you'd never see me again.
For sure.
But since it's not that easy, here's what I do have. You know, and I mean, it's been fascinating, and horrifying watching the role social media has played. And sometimes, you know, doing what I do, it's like watching a car crash happen, where it's like so much of this stuff, you know, I was in grad school, you know, in 2016, and even then you could see what was coming. Like we could see, like people who like study media and communication and social media. It's like we saw the cars, you know, coming closer and closer and closer. So on one hand, that's really horrifying, but on the other hand, to like look at it from a more glass half full perspective, that allows me to like help explain to people how we got here, so that maybe we don't do it again. Is a benefit of it, and so. It's been fascinating, though, over these past couple weeks to watch as Trump's base is kind of turning on him a little bit with the whole Epstein files thing that admittedly I'm trying not to read too much about because it gives me a headache. But I'm seeing it happening. Sure. And so I'm like, well, if this continues, who's going to step in to fill the power vacuum, right? Like who steps in for the power vacuum?
We were talking about Mike Johnson breaking away and calling for the release of the files and seeing potentially a window of Trump's base pulling away and an opening for someone like him.
And I think social media is a huge firestorm for this stuff because it's become a place where people can get online and talk extensively about these issues. Spread misinformation, spread disinformation, engage in this conspiratorial conversation. And it's become like one of the things that strikes me the most is that in politics, and I really see social media accelerate this, is that it's vibes only. It's like everything is vibes now.
Literally.
And like I can't remember exactly the post I saw, but it's confirmed this thing that I've been thinking and observing this confirmed in a very explicit way, where somebody was accused of being a Zionist, and then they put out a statement and they were like, no, I actually like support Palestine and whatnot. And then there was like a comment on that post that was like, I don't believe this, my vibe was always this, and so I still like, I'm going with my vibe, I don't care what this says.
Instead of what you've explicitly said out loud.
And so that to me also emphasizes why manosphere influencers like Joe Rogan were so successful in the first place, because they're really not selling ideas, they're selling vibes. They're selling
This is what we were just saying. We were talking about
so real.
It's like it's like emotion.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They're selling an emotion and there's no critical thinking, nuance or in-depth thought behind it. And we were talking about how the right, like, it's so easy to influence people on the right because it is vibes.
Yeah.
You know? And this particular scenario feels maybe left, but I do think it's a little bit harder. We were talking about how it's a little bit harder to message to people on the left because there is a lot more nuance.
So I will say, let me also say that I'm with you as a blue dot in the broader state of Alabama. I am particularly concerned about the rise of what some people are calling Blue Anon, being this proliferation of vibes and conspiracy thinking on the left. Now, I think it's necessary that as of right now, we cannot equate these things as equal because they're not, right? Like the right-wing misinformation, conspiracy theory vibes, manosphere are engaging in much more explicit and harmful behaviors. So it's like, I don't want to say they're equal because they're not, but I'm very concerned about this rise of kind of the turn towards leftist conspiracy theories as well, because I think it's what's a good one?
What would be like a conspiracy theory like on the left?
Let me look. I've started saving things on my phone.
What we need to look out for,
well, I'm one. So, and the whole reason I brought this up, the vibes thing up, and this probably is another example, is that I saw like Stephen King, the author, like tweet about the Epstein files in a way people don't like. And so Stephen King is notoriously like anti-Donald Trump. And now people are like, oh, of course Stephen King's a pedophile. That's probably in the Epstein files because he wrote about that child like orgy scene in It. So it's like that's that kind of example. Like we just jump to the like
the most
extreme conclusion.
Yeah.
And maybe this is gonna age poorly, what I'm saying. Maybe it's not, but like this is we're that's one specific example of this like we leap from like we're presented with information and then we leap to like the most extreme possible outcome of that information that's presented to us.
Yeah.
Oh, like I saw one that how the this is one that the Trump administration is throwing the detained immigrants out of planes into the ocean.
I have seen that
as well, and I was like, what? Like I sat there and I was sort of like, hang on, I got to put my critical thinking hat on here, and I was like, I need to like research this.
And so I think it's. Again, I think so to bring it back to my area of expertise of social media is it's so easy to use information presented to us on social media and jump to really extreme conclusions. Social media are very emotionally charged places. Social media platforms and algorithms like emotional content because, as I tell my students, these are businesses and the product is the platform. And when you use it for free, you also become the product, right? You are the product. And your time and engagement and views and eyes and clicks and everything is what is exchanged here. And so it is in social media platforms' best interest to keep you on that platform as long as possible. So that's why emotionally charged content, be it positive or negative, does really well. And so conspiracy theories like this do really well because they're really heated. And so that's one of the reasons right-wing influencers like Rogan and the Manosphere have also been able to be really successful and creep more into the mainstream is because that type of content is so successful for social media platforms because even if it doesn't start as explicitly like Joe Rogan doesn't explicitly start being like women are like going out of the I couldn't even tell you, I don't listen to Joe Rogan, but you know, like pontificating about whatever. He's just like smoking weed on his show and like shooting the shit with his pals, and then he's like, I don't know about these vaccines, man, right? And then you're like, oh, maybe I don't know about these vaccines, man. And so it's that curiosity and that emotion that help people stick around. So
yeah. Speaking of the Manosphere, I read a study recently that said that I think this study came out last year, but it said that young boys, when they get on social media, I'm sure you've both seen this, within like 20 minutes, they're exposed to misogynistic content. So Mallory and I talk about this a lot in the sense that Mallory is a bonus mom to two young boys and has a boy on the way. And, you know, like, so kind of looking at
in Alabama,
just
my boys.
all the time. So I think like when we're looking to the next generation and how, to your point, like social media is not going anywhere. So are there any like things we can do to sort of like prevent this from happening to young boys and kind of like shaping their worldview?
Yes, totally. So I think there's a couple things we can do here. One, and this is sometimes like what I talk about like on my TikTok presence is like, we have got to get social media education into schools. And I also don't think the way social media is currently taught or explained is the best way to do it. When I talk to my students, I tell them I am not an alarmist for social media and I'm not an apologist. So like, I'm not going to scare you into being like moral panics and, you know, social media is addictive and all these things. I'm also not going to apologize for all the bad stuff it's done. We have to hold both of those things at the same time because it's done a lot of bad things and it's done a lot of good things. And I think the way we teach social media right now is largely in that alarmist category. That it is, you know, it rots our brains, it kills our attention spans, it gives us, you know, it harms our self-esteem, which again, those things happen. I'm not saying they don't happen. But I think we also then need to pivot to platforms themselves, right? We have all absorbed this idea of fixing social media as like an individual problem for like us to solve, when we have got to hold platforms accountable for this. You know, one of the other startling things of many that came out of Sarah Wynne Williams's memoir, Careless People, was she discussed how when like teenagers would take selfies and post them on Instagram, Instagram would then send them like targeted ads for like dieting and filters and basically preying on women's, going back to the motion of social media, young women's bodily and self-esteem issues and insecurities. So that shit's got to stop. Right?
That shit was crazy. When I read that, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Well, this is though where I struggle with. I'm like, yes, that would be great if that kind of stuff would stop. However, when the people who own these platforms are the people who support people in administrations like Donald Trump, and Donald Trump has benefited from all of these platforms and the ways that they operate. It's like, it would take all of us collectively unifying and deciding that these things are bad when we can't even decide that the sky is blue collectively as a society.
True. You're absolutely right. So I think it's important to teach one, particularly young people, about the idea that this is a business, this is a product, this is a platform. This is not just a fun place for you to hang out with your friends and post about your life. You know, my college undergraduates, when I present it that way, you can see the little like mind blown bubbles, is like they've never thought about social media this way. And it's like,
oh, that's kind of crazy.
So it's like some of them probably have, a lot of them haven't. And so it's like, this is not just a thing that's a part of your life. This is a business, a media company operating in the tiny everyday moments of your everyday life that structures how you think about life. So one of the things, you know, I come from a media background. Like, we talk about media represent reality. Media are not reality, right? Like, so what you see on TV is a representation. What you see in a film is a representation. We forget that what we see on social media are also representations, that it's not reality. It is selective versions of people's lives. It is content that has been selectively tailored to us because of algorithms. It is not reality, you know. And even I get caught up in this. Like, I was talking to somebody and I was like, oh yeah, the antipasta salad TikTok discourse. And they were like, what are you talking about? I'm like, oh.
Wait, what do you mean, what are we talking about? But it's like,
I
also think it's pretty viral among Southerners.
Yes, I agree. I think there's a very big Southern thing there.
Yeah, people up north are like, what the fuck, man? Like, we have no idea what you're...
There was a stranger who came to your house? Of course you didn't invite them in.
Yes, 1,000%. But yeah, so I think that needs to be a part of the conversation too, is that you are getting filtered presentations of reality. This is not reality. So these, I think, are conversations that are important to have about social media, because you're right. These platforms make too much money. They have too much power. They are too cozy with governments, especially right now, to really be held accountable. And one thing I do always notice, though, typically when whenever there's a congressional hearing that brings the CEOs to the Hill, everybody agrees they're bad and something needs to be done. It's just nobody can get it together long enough to do anything about that. And also,
well, that's everything.
Well, that's everything, right? Yeah, that's American politics in a nutshell at the moment. But
yeah.
So I don't know. So yes, so I do think we should not give up on holding platforms accountable, because, you know, as we saw with the TikTok ban that wasn't, you know, with everybody fleeing to Red Note, it's like, I would literally rather download an actual Chinese app than go to Meta, right? So public opinion matters to them. And so I do think there's something there that we maybe don't necessarily have to give up on yet. But that being said, it's still important to, I think, adopt a more holistic approach to teaching social media that is rooted in media theories and media, like, discussions to remind us that it is a business, it is a representation, and it is not reality.
I also think there's something to be said, and this, just us talking here has sparked this thought of like, I've changed my behavior recently. So now that I know that the longer I spend on a video just watching it, that the more I'm going to get of that content, or I'm fed something on Meta. In particular, Facebook is really a cesspool of crap I don't follow right now. Every time I open up my homepage on Facebook, I'm like, what are all these random pages that are popping up? I hate that.
See one more AI Nick Saban giving up his seat to an old lady on a plane he never flew, I'm going to like... Facebook is all slop.
But it's that, and I have seen in real time. I was with my grandmother who is in her later 70s. We were at the beach and she was like, "Is Taylor Swift pregnant?" And I was like, "Nope, that's an AI photo. That's not a real thing." Like, we had to have a conversation about how people do that so that you click so that they make money. And like explaining that side of things. But what I was getting at is like, we can also teach people how to change their behavior online and do things like, I purposefully will take the time to go not interested on TikTok, on Reels, because I recognize that if I stay there, and sometimes, you know, we've all been there, we're scrolling and then I'm like, God, why am I watching this video still?
Right? Oh yeah.
Why am I watching this ad?
Because
I don't even like it.
It's addictive, right? It is
addictive. It's addictive. So I think just waking people up to like, you can have a little bit more control over the experience if you recognize your own behavior and you take steps while you're on the platforms to change what it feeds you or how it interacts with you.
I definitely think that social media, and I'm writing about this, I'm writing some books right now, and like, so these are like things I'm thinking about, is that yes, there are these bigger, larger issues that we have got to change somehow. But at the same time, we all have got to take a step back and look at how we're using social media too. And in the interim, that may be the only thing we have. And again, I still think we should demand better from these platforms that structure so much of our lives. But also, it's not the platform's fault you leave a really hateful comment on someone's video.
Absolutely.
Right? That requires some self-reflection to be like, why am I doing this? Like, somebody recently left a comment. So people on the internet hate my glasses. I love my glasses.
What? I love glasses.
Yeah. For listeners, they're very big black glasses. They have been called by my haters Groucho Marx glasses. To give you a visual, I love them. And I've decided I'm going as Groucho Marx for Halloween this year now because of it.
Perfect.
But somebody recently left a comment on a video I made that was like, your glasses are the ugliest piece of shit I've ever seen in my life. Your friends must hate you because no real friend would let you walk out of the house like that. And why does the University of Alabama have somebody who looks like they're 50 teaching social media?
God.
I'm 35 for start.
Both Maggie and I are certainly no strangers to hate comments.
Oh, I'm sure.
But Jesus, you're like, why do you care that much?
I was just like, man, I've made you angry. I'm sorry if my existence makes you mad. But I was like, that's a problem about social media that's not the platform's fault, right?
No.
Yeah.
So to your point that we have to think critically about our own social media use, I think is imperative. And I think it is imperative that we teach our students, our young people, and honestly, older people too as well, that this is not just a young people problem.
Especially the AI
In fact,
piece.
I actually think younger people are nicer online.
Yes, I agree.
Like our age group and younger, you might
100%.
be like, hey, have you ever thought about approaching it like this? Yeah. Like, there's not like, oh my God, you're so fucking stupid. God. Yeah. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that that's totally right. And being behind screens for this duration of time now, people are so comfortable saying things they would never say to someone's face. Especially not to mine.
Yeah.
I do have to say, I think Maggie might agree with me on this. Growing up in the Miss America organization was such how I interacted with the internet was so different because we were kind of held to this standard of like, you would never want to judge to see a picture of you doing something or someone to screenshot you saying something. And so in the formation of social media and my like late teens, early 20s, I was always thinking like I would never want someone to screenshot me and say something I wouldn't want to say anything ugly in the first place, but I would never want it to be screenshotted. And so I think that saved that saved how I interacted with platforms. But you saying, like, you know, some of the things we can teach ourselves to do and retrain our brains to do. I'm sure you all have family members and have been in rooms with people who are so addicted to their phones that they literally cannot exist. Like they physically cannot exist. I'm thinking about a very particular member of my family who I am constantly like, put your phone down. There are people in the room around you, and it's like it's not even conscious. It's picking it up and just starting to scroll. And I think about that a lot, how so many people are missing out on literally touching grass.
Yeah, I mean, especially like I think about this a lot as it relates to the boomer generation specifically, because so many of, you know, I tie basically everything in with like being ADHD. It's like sort of my whole personality. And so I think a lot about like all of the neurodiverse people in that population who are undiagnosed. And so who are going to social media for their dopamine hit, because we know that to be true about social media. And so that's where they're getting their like supply. And then like what it turns into is just this unconscious like, oh, I know this will make me feel good. So I'm just going to like, even if it also makes me feel bad, question mark, like even if I'm seeing something that like really pisses me off, it's like it still gives them a high of sorts, you know. So I think about that a lot in terms of the just lack of diagnostic criteria we have in that generation, and how they all are just like on their fucking phones all the time. I'm like, oh my god,
give me the hits
to their cell phone.
Literally, hitting their forearm.
I think too, people seek out the validation of the feelings they get on social media. So even to your point, if it's something like enraging, well, I want to know other people also feel enraged. So therefore, it validates my own rage then.
Absolutely.
So I think that's happening on some subconscious level too, is that like you see that engagement bait of whether it's like really good or really bad, and then you're like, oh, other people are reacting similarly. And if not, then I'm going to get into a fight with them in the comments. And so,
Therapy is a really great tool, y'all. Like,
that's one of my favorite go-tos at this point. I'm like, you could get therapy, or you could argue with me in my comments. You make the choice.
I'm just like, thanks for the engagement. Cool.
I say that all the time.
Totally.
It's funny, if I engage, it's a choice that I've made. Right? Like, if someone comments and I say something on TikTok or I make a video about it, it's 100% because I'm like, I know this is going further. It's conscious, right? But I feel so many people, I mean, I have family members that I'm like, get off the internet.
100%.
Go live your life. But I actually wanted to talk to you a little bit about something in particular, and it was, I've followed you, I don't even know when, since I guess you were online. Like, I feel like I was one of the first people who followed you. And maybe because you were in my geographic orbit, but you made a video about Bruce Springsteen and encoding and decoding, and I was like, fascinating. And so I would love if you could just give folks who maybe haven't seen that.
Tell me about the boss.
Give everybody a synopsis of that element.
So on July 4th, Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA entered the Spotify charts again, and people were like, what is wrong with everyone? Like, this is not a patriotic song, right? Like, the song is about, you know, this a disillusioned, disenfranchised Vietnam War veteran who came home and his country forgot about him after his service and all that. So we're like, no, not the 4th of July vibe. But it's so funny because a lot of people hear that song and they're like, America, fuck yeah, you know, like patriotism and all that. So I made a TikTok video explaining this through a theory of media called encoding and decoding. And so and it's funny because Born in the USA is actually the example I use in class to explain this to my students. So I was like, I have been summoned to the internet to like give class.
I was so glad. I was like, whoa.
And so
I had never thought about that.
Basically, encoding and decoding says that when somebody makes a piece of media, it is they insert their own values, beliefs, ideas, ideologies into it. However, then audiences decode it in ways that don't always align with the encoding. And so this was created by a cultural theorist named Stuart Hall, and he wrote that there are three main ways to decode media. First is a dominant reading, so that's where you kind of completely agree with everything that is being said. So in this case, you understand and accept that Born in the USA is a song about, we give up on our veterans when they come home from war and don't treat them well. It's a song about the failures of the American dream. And you're like, yes, I agree with that. A negotiated reading would be, well, I agree that maybe we don't take care of our veterans, but I still believe in the American dream. So it's like accepting some elements and rejecting others. And then finally, there's an oppositional reading. And I think most people's frustration with the popularity of Born in the USA, entering on a national holiday comes because most people read Born in the USA from this oppositional reading. And I point out that it's actually not that people don't get it. They do. They just choose a different interpretation. And then I show my students in class, there's a YouTube fan video, and it's like just the perfect teaching tool where somebody has uploaded Born in the USA to this like patriotic montage. And the summary that they put in the video was, I'm aware this isn't what Bruce Springsteen meant. I just wanted to put that aside and show my support for America regardless. And so like that's a perfect oppositional reading where it's like, yes, I understood what he wanted to do, but it means something else to me.
But I reject that.
Yes,
actually.
but I reject it.
Yeah. I just like the vibes of the song.
Yeah, vibes.
It's vibes.
Straight vibes.
Yeah. Well, and it makes so much sense because I was thinking about how recently Bruce, I think he was in Europe and he went on this diatribe about Trump and everyone was like, "Whoa, stick to singing," and we were like, "Have you been listening?"
I know.
Yeah, that like your video about encoding and decoding, I was like, oh, that's why people listen to musicians all the time and just reject the content of what they're singing about, and then get mad at them when they're political. I'm like, they've been political always.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Honestly,
so crazy.
Please teach encoding, decoding in the schools. I think that's something that people should get starting in like 4th grade, in my opinion. But
absolutely,
I mean, fascinating. What are some of the other subjects that like pop up in your classroom?
So it definitely depends on the class. So like when I teach social media, I teach 2 kinds of social media classes. One is social media and society, which is basically just like thinking about where social media fits in. So we talk about like how social media developed. We talk about AI. We talk about surveillance capitalism and data capitalism. We talk about creators and influencers and all that. I then teach a how to be a content creator class as well, teaching students how to be content creators. But then in my more traditional media classes, I actually do encoding and decoding in my social media class because I think it's useful. It's a useful framework that carries through the semester. But like I teach that in media theory. We talk about encoding, decoding. We talk about like what are media genres, like what's cinematography, what's visual style, like how to read media basically, and think critically about media. Because most of the students I want to teach want to work professionally in media, so we teach them how to make media and how to think critically about the media they're making.
I'm super curious to know your thoughts on, well, when you mentioned like data capitalism, I instantly was like, hey, Peter Thiel, how are we doing? But we can come back to that. I want to know your thoughts on the AI piece. So, like, what would you say to somebody who thinks that AI is only bad? Like, it's only going to lead us to, like, robots dominating society and, like, crazy shit like that.
So when ChatGPT first came out and they were in like February, it got really popular and they were like, it passed a Harvard Business School exam. That's impressive. I was like, actually, that tells me how much Harvard Business School exams lack critical thinking, actually. So I think we are away. I don't think we're getting replaced by robots, and we don't think we need to accept AI as our like new overlord anytime soon. Because I think that a lot of the fear, I am somebody who thinks AI is actually wholly bad and is a net negative for society. However, it's not going to take over because, I mean, we just saw, Grok on Twitter go off and call itself Mecha Hitler.
Literally unhinged.
I feel okay. I think I could take Grok in a fight.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
What is the joke?
Totally.
Like men versus 100 bears, like me versus 100 AI, I think I could win.
100 grok. Yeah. I love that.
I think the thing that I fear with AI, I understand like the brain rot side of it, that it's not going to help people think any more critically about anything. And, you know, we need people in society to be able to write a paper on their own without plugging it into ChatGPT. I fear more what we were talking about with like Taylor Swift and the pregnancy and the imagery side of things and the video creation. I fear that because of how viral things can go quickly on social media and how emotionally charged we all are already. So you combine those two things and now you've got this video going viral that's not real. That's inciting a riot or violence or whatever, and I have real fear for the people who are running our country that they will use it that way.
I agree.
And complete lack of like policy or legislation to protect us.
And
from
now they
AI.
just voted against regulating it. So
for 10 years.
And I don't know if y'all have been following like. And I don't follow any of this administration's like official accounts of the White House DOD. I don't follow it, but it still comes up on like my Twitter sometimes. And they have been using a ton of AI art. And I honestly believe AI art is the aesthetic of fascism because you literally can create the world in the image you want it to be. And if we think about going back to vibes, you're selling a feeling there in that art. You are making an art to induce a feeling in somebody, reality be damned. And so like there was just recently one where they posted like return to the homestead, and it was like a frontier, like a couple in a wagon like on the frontier and whatever.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
And I mean I think we could do a whole podcast episode about that image, but like I was like that you're saying a lot with creating this AI image. Because it's also
return to the days when babies didn't live past 5
or
months.
like the one where it was like Donald Trump like ascending to like heaven or whatever. Like you just broke my brain by saying that AI is the like aesthetic of fascism. That is so wild. Like that is you should just trademark that phrase because that is genius.
Well, I don't
should be a book. Make that a book.
I don't think I'm the first person to say that. Let me be clear there. But I do think about that a lot. And I can't tell you.
Well, you're the first person to say it to us, so therefore, yes, you are.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
I'm just like
we're just making up realities while we're at it. So,
but I think that like, because anytime you look at AI, it's too real, right? And that's what I tell my students to look for because it is getting better at hands. It used to be hands, couldn't do the fingers.
they would have a sixth or.
My favorite was one time I saw a leg like sticking out of a calf, and I was like, sure. But it's getting better, and so you have to look at it. It's like this seems too real. This is too perfect. And it's like if we think of what fascism is and authoritarianism is, it is literally curating a specific version of the world to dominate over all others. And AI is a perfect tool and terrifying tool for that because you literally can create an image to induce a feeling. And it's like, well, why didn't you use a photo from, the 1800s frontier photo? You know what I'm saying? Like an old artist rendering of the frontier days. No, because that doesn't convey what you actually want to convey. Because if you use the old photo, then you do start thinking more about like babies died and childbirth. Well, we live in Alabama. That still unfortunately happens all the time. But
for lack of vaccines, they died just a few months later.
And so it is, the AI image is like, it lacks context, it lacks history, so it can be just about the vibes and the feeling, which is why it's so useful, I think, for this administration and why we're seeing them embrace it so much.
I think the theme of this episode is like, we just have to be really conscious and careful about not only the vibes that we're ingesting, but also the vibes that we're creating.
Vibes are bad.
Yeah, totally.
Right now, the vibes are not good.
Vibes are really dark. For sure. That is just incredible. You have really, I'm stumped, friend. I am stumped. That just broke my brain. Literally, that's just so, I have never heard AI framed in that context. Like, and my brother and I talk a lot about AI, especially as it relates to sort of things like how AI has, the evolution into like Palantir and kind of these like data mining, tools and resources. So that just, wow. I've got nothing.
If
yeah,
your listeners,
that's amazing.
if you and your listeners want my suggestion for how to, something that helps navigate this hellscape, follow the zoo accounts on the internet. Follow the zoos because they post very cute pictures of animals that then
wholesome
make you happy.
Zoos, cats.
There's a capybara at the San Antonio Zoo that I'm obsessed with named Tupi, and Tupi might be the only thing holding my sanity together. So, I recommend the zoo.
Well, speaking of that, then let's play a little game.
Okay.
We've got a game that we call Fury or Fun.
Okay.
And since you mentioned the zoos, we'll start with Mudang. Fury or fun?
Controversial Fury.
Why?
Because people, I think we ran too far with it. Like, when I saw videos of people outside of Mudang's pen, like, holding up their cameras, and it's, like, hundreds of people trying to get a view, I was like, I'm back at the Mona Lisa in Paris. With everybody trying to get...
sad.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm a hater.
I actually like really respect that view.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
I guess I didn't even think about people actually going to see Mudang. I just thought about all the funny pictures and memes.
Yeah, like the
content,
memes were hysterical.
Poor Mudang.
Poor Mudang. Let Mudang live.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Well, she just had a birthday, so she is living.
Okay, good for her.
Okay, so mine is how do you feel about ACOTAR? I'm so excited to hear your thoughts on
Okay, so
are you gonna get canceled?
No, because I hate it. I do have to say I've read the books. I read them.
Okay.
And I read them before she used Breonna Taylor to promote her book, The Death of Breonna Taylor, The Murder of Breonna Taylor. And so now, and because this gets into like hate listening, I will listen to like hours long YouTube videos that like recap the books, so I don't have to buy them and give her money, and I can support my favorite creators instead. Because I'm nosy and I have to be part of the discourse and know what's going on without actually spending my money to be a part of it. No, Absolutely. And so I think there's a lot of problematic stuff with ACOTAR. But that also being said, like, this part may get me canceled. I think people read for different reasons, and if somebody is reading to just have like a fun, guilty pleasure thing, that's okay. And that, like, listen, I've studied book influencers and book talk. That will get me canceled. But but
we won't clip this part.
Thank you. I appreciate that. No, but I think it's problematic. I think it's problematic that it's elevated to like the publishing standard. But that also being said, let people read what they want to read.
Yeah, romantasy. Yeah.
You're somewhere in between Fury and then like go live your life. Okay.
Yeah. I have tried reading ACOTAR a total of 3 times, and each time I have made it about 10 pages further than I did the first time, or the previous time. And, thank you. But it's tough. Yeah. It's tough. It's not what I would call like, hot take. It's not good literature.
It's not good
like
writing.
Good writing.
It's not good writing at all. Yeah.
But like, if you want your fairy smut,
live your life.
If you
want your dragon smut, if you want your alien simile, listen. I'm not here to police people's reading because, again, when I think we police people's reading, we set ourselves up into more problematic paths.
Meanwhile, I'm just like over here on a whole different side of the internet. I know literally nothing about ACOTAR.
I wish that was me.
I wish that was me too. I was a happier person before I knew about ACOTAR. Yeah.
All right, mine is Fury or Fun, the Gen Z stare content.
I literally just did an interview with NBC about the Gen Z stare right before I got on this with y'all.
No way.
Fun. I think it's fun. I'm like, y'all, it's your turn to get critiqued for something because y'all millennial paused me to death on
the paws are freaking side parts, our skinny jeans.
Oh my God.
All of it.
I was like, listen,
let me live.
It's a rite of passage to get bullied by the generation before you, so just suck it up and take it.
Well, and the crazier thing is that like millennials, I feel, didn't really want to bully. We were like, hey, we're here to be your cool older siblings. Yeah. Like we get it. Yeah. We get where you're at. And they were like, no, fuck you guys. You're the worst.
The funniest part about the Gen Z stare is that, like, I definitely, when people were explaining it, I was like, oh, this is what happens in my classroom. This is like when I ask a question and it's
just nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
I love it. Well, to wrap things up, we always start our show by saying you can't be pretty furious without being pretty first. Yeah. So we talk about a product that we love, or just like. Yeah. What do you got today?
Ooh,
what's your product?
What is my pretty product? You know what? I think that there were some estheticians on TikTok that would also cancel me for this, but I'm a big fan of Olay skincare products.
Why would they cancel
I don't know.
you?
I saw an esthetician be like, never use Olay, and I was like,
okay, but isn't that what like every like woman who's like in her 50s or 60s, you look at her and you're like, what do you use on your skin? And she's like, Olay.
Yeah,
I've been using it for 45 years.
I know.
And you're like, okay.
And I'm like,
okay,
you know what?
yeah.
I love my Olay skincare. It's great.
Perfect.
I love that.
So thank you.
Also,
so
we've just
much.
spent this whole hour talking about how all of this is just whatever. So whatever that esthetician said,
right.
no one cares.
Exactly.
Well, Jess, this has been really fun. Thank you for sharing your expertise with us and for having a good time with us. We enjoy being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.